Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 22 of Illium, our modded CS1 build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Had a live stream recently where we added in a marina, custom gas stations and some commercial, with lots of detailing on a little slither of land between Plymouth Slopes and Sapphire Marina. A lot of fun indeed, thank you so much for hanging out. But today, as Illium's sprawl has really developed around the couplet system that came with the map, we'll be building one of the more exciting and unique builds of the city. The Hilltop Central Park, which will give us full 360 views of the bays and the waters around the mountain range, likely being the second best viewpoint we'll have in the city, behind, I imagine, an eventual very top of the mountain build. But settle in everyone, a happy Monday to you all, and welcome back to Illium. Alright guys, so today's big fancy Central Park build, of course, one of our key assets is going to be the Central Park itself. So let's get this placed atop the hill. You can probably see I've already placed it during some testing. So we'll have this here, come into our unique buildings and walk around the Central Park, which does come with the Green Cities DLC, if you don't have it. Definitely one of the best DLCs the game received. And I'm going to actually rotate this 180 degrees as well. We'll worry about a road connection after the fact, but as long as we're in. But what I'm really looking for here today is the alignment of the amphitheatre, like this one over here, to sit quite proudly overlooking the city. You can imagine there's lots of cool events hosted here. And to be honest, the skyline on the picture here actually isn't too dissimilar from the Illium skyline, really, is it? Maybe a few more towers here, and it'll pretty much be the same. But I think a position of an outdoor amphitheatre here, of course, which will detail up during our time lapse. There's lots of expandable detail here. And now the good thing about this park is you can actually get all of these little elements of it as individual sub-buildings, which is a really fun way to use it. But today I want to go with the full thing, and I think I'm going to bob it as well. There's a lot of order there, although there is a absolute ton of sub-buildings. So we'll go for our oaks here. And set this for every section. I think the live oaks are just a little bit more tame, aren't they, I think? Something like this here. And we also have a road going right through the middle of the Central Park, which I'm not against. However, I would like to change that road. So we use Network Multi-Tools Unlock Network feature. All these here. We'll grab ourselves a tram road. Probably just don't want to do anything tree lined, it'll get a bit too spicy, I think. Draw that back in. I guess I should draw it in the segments it wants. Try and keep the simulation happy. And then relock all those segments. Now we should be able to have a tram stop here. Yes, we can. Perfect. I now want to link this road essentially down to this one here. So let's do some terraforming here. I'm actually going to totally remove this tram turnaround for a second. And I think we'll let Network Multi-Tool decide the gradient for us. So from here, we'll just start to switch back up the hillside. Quite a wide switch back as well, because I don't want the gradient to be absolutely mental. So I want to give ourselves the room to really work our way up here. As always, any major terraforming work will take a little second to come together here. So terrain, please. Hold your complaints for the time being. And once we have that in, let's come to multi-tool, and we'll grab our slope function. And from this top one, essentially down to just the first node. We can blend that into a 10.9% gradient there. If there's steeper roads around me, that's okay. I'll be happy with that. Tram, please, might not be, but we'll find out in the comments below. I think. Cool. Let's tuck all that in. We'll get some nice kind of secure, well, I guess safety fence detailing is really what it is here, isn't it? At least so no one can just drive straight off. But it does give us quite a fun little mountain road that comes, well, with pretty phenomenal views of the downtown. Thinking we also need the road connection here as well. We'll add this in whilst we want it. Let's do... So that box is in one side of the park. I'll likely have a road coming down here, which will allow for further access into this detailed area over that way. Around the amphitheatre there. And then this guy will come But I'm going to actually box in the whole park. This side, we're going to grab our nodes. And let's set them to the same height as the building itself. Now we do have a road coming up this way, which I'd be happy to keep integrating. Probably don't want to move away from the cycling road. And this can follow a pretty similar trajectory to what it was just on. And I'd quite like to integrate some part life gates into this park as well, but we've got quite a few different things planned today. So we'll see what comes of it. Send that in there. And again, another network multi-slope from top to bottom, just to grade it out. And then we can start to see how we'll kind of reform the mountain to suit our own needs here today. With gradients and slopes and whatnot. I really do want the park to be kind of the pinnacle of the hill, if you like, so some softening to adjust for that. Put one asset in, I'm pretty happy with that. We've also got some really interesting things happening around here, for which I would like to account for. Most importantly, the monorail. Now, we mentioned last episode that I'd like to have this run as a bit of a figure of 8, essentially around the bottom of the park. So let's start to embellish that idea. We're going to bring this monorail all the way down. Now we'll worry about heights at a later date. As I'm going to mention quite a specific design for this network as well. So what I essentially want to do to help with this episode is going to be a lot of layering and network design, everyone. Are you ready for it? Essentially want this terrain layer to run all the way along here, pretty much. We can push that back to the mountain so it doesn't look too awkward. A little bit of softening around here will also be fine for me. This monorail low to the ground is really what I'm trying to emulate here, I suppose. Long-term, old-school Palaven subscribers will probably be having flashbacks at this point. And then as it crosses this tram road, this is where it will resume to normal height and continue to run with the couplet system, right? So now we can come to move it. We'll grab our picker function. And we just want to grab the monorail nodes. I suppose we'll also grab buildings as well, because the pylons are going to want to come down to the same level as well. Okay, so all of those selected. Let's bring everyone down. So again, the monorail will slightly deform as it goes anyway. But pretty much this height here is where I want everyone. So I'll have this here. We'll do Control and H. And actually, I think I'll pick this node here. There we go. So that flattens the whole monorail down. Let's also do this one as well. I actually wonder, now I see these two lines converging, if it's actually a much easier job just to go for a junction rather than trying to overlay them. I imagine it probably is. Yeah, I think we'll do that. And then again, a little bit more master slope. We'll go from here down to here. 1.8% gradient there. And of course, we're going to get that tiny little nasty terrain bump, but that's where a little bit of soften will just tidy that up for us against the edge of the hill there. Now I'm just showing you the method. It's up to you guys how you stitch the pieces together. I think there's something to be had for... Not sure what it is. It's a very modern design, isn't it? But monorail so low to the ground really just has its own sort of aura, doesn't it, I suppose? Way we like it, and then it comes back to regular height here as it disperses away from the terrain layer. And so of course the tile boundary kind of stops me from completing the figure of 8 at the minute. It's going to go through this tile here, but not in a minute. So as a very temporary measure, just so we can see it flowing today, everyone close your eyes. This isn't actually technically happening. We're just going to run it through here, but eventually we'll reroute it to come a bit closer to the highway here. Maybe even flowing in between the highway at some point. That could be very unique, wouldn't it? I don't think we've ever done a monorail between the highway. And then this over here, we will actually force this to a elevated segment of road. And we can also feed this metro track to now continue. And which I wouldn't mind bringing it back up to ground level. Do my best to please the metro please with that one. And then here it can cross over. I'm going to leave that as a level crossing for right now, because I imagine it might not get too busy. This metro isn't going to be super busy, I don't think. At least in terms of the number of vehicles. And this road isn't super busy anyway, so if it needs to be sunken underneath, we'll essentially do the same thing we did here. And again, just to make sure train police are happy, let's come in with another slope. We'll go from here to here. Bring that down to 3.8, maybe even a touch further down there, perhaps. That gives us 4.7. I'm not sure if metro can be at slightly higher gradients than trains can. Get recycling centres, you'll have to go. We are desperately in need of an industrial build in the not too distant future. Probably should have done it this week. But I've been dying to do this park. So that's what's happening. Then our final transit network, this monorail over here, will complete our final figure of 8. So we'll get this stuck in. In terms of where it goes, I'd like it to meet a metro station here, as it kind of does here, where they cross not too far away from each other. Again, I'm going to kind of gradient this monorail here as well, all of which is going to flow through the park infrastructure. Which should make the park look really unique, I think, with so much transit kind of laced through it, if you like. This metro will continue to converge with the monorail in multiple different instances. But for right now, it does give us the figure of 8. The only network left awry here now is the tram. Where do we want to turn you around? You're currently coming through here. I might just turn it around at the top of the hill, you know, and then send it back down. If we have metro and monorail serving this, there's probably no need for a tram in all honesty. Which is fine, that gives me another opportunity to actually integrate some nice tram infrastructure into the park. So we'll bring out some tram-only roads here. I think this public transit stop in the city will probably be the best one we get, I think. We'll move down into a little one-way network. Our nodes set to the same height. And we'll probably have some retaining walls, especially as we head away from this initial park mountain, if you like. Where we get more harsher terrain features like this. Unless we could slope that out, it might not work too badly with a slope here. Yeah, it's still quite intense though. There's work there to ease it out, I think. And then with this in here, we can detail a wonderful little tram stop. There we go. So we can stop atop the hill, ideally facing the downtown. And then of course stop directly in the central park as well. And I'll also have you stop just as you come off the couplet up onto the hill. For which there'll be other paths and infrastructure ready for people to utilise here. Let's turn our attention to some light detailing work here, shall we? Bring in some of the old faithful concrete surface. We'll go tiled here, but because I'm not playing with a perfect grid, they'll overlap quite badly. I wonder if I could place a single paved tile in the middle, actually. I think I'll go for that. Yeah, we use the intersection marking tool here to draw in a little line. And we'll go with some nice farm fencing here, I think. Just push this off. And then apply between intersections or wrap the whole area around for us. And we can bring in some nice little props here, can't we? Let's come into our park menu. I think a fountain is certainly justified. I'll probably bring the fantastic fountain into this area as well today, to be fair. Because it is simply fantastic. A couple of bins around the corner as well. With perhaps a kiosk. Also bring park life assets up here as well if you wanted to. Cafes, restaurants, etc. We will be creating a park life area today. And then one of those little, I guess, shelter sort of stop things. Just by where the tram comes up and pulls over here. Speak of the devil, there he is. That's very low down. Let's raise that up a touch, shall we? Here we go. So I don't think that's a true reflection of ridership just yet, because they've all got off and immediately want to get back on. But the case in point being this view being so important for today's sightlines, right? I think everyone's going to have a really nice time with that. So this is great. There's plenty more detailing to be had up here. Another key feature of the park I want to work on today is going to be something of a botanical garden integrated into the park space here. So let's turn our attention to that, shall we? So with the next tier of the park, I think I'd like to chisel it out just beneath the tram stop here. Again, accentuating layers more than we need, just so we have the room. Let's clear up some forest here too. So we'll go for a nice road. And then the classic vanilla park, the botanical garden, which can sit here. So what I really want to focus on today is kind of expanding the function of this asset by the wonders of anarchy. So let's come into our grid frame. And we'll draw around the back. Take our guideline off too. And then from this, which I think I'm likely to integrate into the actual park space itself, so let's go ahead and get that down while we're looking at it. I don't think I'm overly bothered exactly where the main gate sits, but we'll put it there for right now. I imagine there'll be several gates across the whole park. We're going to name this Blazer Park today, after our wonderful Tier 2 patron, Mr. Blazer. Thank you for your support, mate. You do get Illium's Hilltop Central Park named after your good self. So a lot of the detail in here will come with props. So let's dive into the wonderful world of prop fencing. For which, with all the DLCs, there's a vast choice of now. I think I'm most after the mid-century modern stuff, you know. Tough choice, actually. I think we'll go with this one. So at the back of the botanical garden, so what we will do first, actually, is draw in path grids. So we'll do 4 deep will be enough, I think. Bring those down. Have them come off in a few different directions. Of course, we'll feed them up the hill here as well. Return to our prop fencing. Let's come ahead and drag out a little section here. And we'll do something like this. Just a little enclosure, if you like. And then once we have that, we'll grab, I think, a nature reserve sign will serve as well here. And we'll have a little sign just to the left of the enclosure, kind of integrated into the fence. And then if you have access to the workshop, some custom trees will work really nicely here. But I'm just going to go for the trees I tend to avoid in Illium, such as the baobabs. Something a bit more exotic. And then if we grab our props, we can essentially just repeat this little enclosure design, giving us the visual aesthetic of this kind of botanical viewing area. Using the official props, I think add a bit more interest to a botanical garden. So we have all those and we can grab the rest of them. Give them a little flip around with Move It. You can do this technically in vanilla, but you won't get the exact prop fence placements due to anarchy collisions, unfortunately. And then we can have jacarandas. We can do just a little selection of roadies. Some of the trees here. Maybe an Ilos palm. Imported from the desert city, of course. Some more fun vanilla, colourful trees we don't see very often. And you can just have so much botanical fun with this now. Really just kind of add these individual exhibits. Granted, it's pure trees. This is, like I said, the workshop comes in clutch here for much more exotic custom trees, but I can make do with that, I think. I think it actually will bring the path to amusement park pathway, just for a pop of colour in the park itself. Everyone over into the centre here a little bit as well. And I'm not averse to some dirt surface painter, I think. Just beneath the botanical installations, I suppose. Slowly but surely through this little process, we'll just begin to expand this quite interesting, different looking park, right? You can imagine walking through here, learning about various different species of tree, everything that's going on. So I'm pretty happy with it. I really like it. A lot of the zoo assets will also partner extremely well with this visual. Again, using the Park Life DLC. We haven't made a zoo yet, have we? We have not. I'm just going to place one. But what I really want from that is the birdhouse, which again I think will sit really nicely here in orbit of the larger botanical garden space. Have that there. The birds will have a pretty tremendous view. I'm sure they'd love to fly wild and free. They look like eagles, don't they? But probably some of the best living quarters in the city, I think, for these guys over here. The other zoo enclosures, moose and reindeer and antelopes are a little bit much for a park, I think. They're definitely more, I think, zoologically focused. So we'll only use the birdhouse, I think, from that. Let's go ahead and get our park hooked in. And then we'll stick in a secondary side gate. I also wouldn't mind, just as my mind begins to wander with possible asset combinations here. We'll add a side gate this way. If the music festival venue would work quite nicely here as well atop the hill. Almost as though it's some sort of the same facility as the amphitheatre. Perhaps some days there's shows at the amphitheatre and the performance stage is not in use, and when there's festivals on, obviously people aren't listening to Hamlet up here because it would probably be a little bit of a clash. I think it's a hilltop festival site. I think this is a bad place for it. It will also do a little bit of network multi-slope here as well, although I don't know how much it's actually going to help us. It actually makes things... does it make it significantly worse? It is quite eating into the terrain, but I think I've got the wiggle room around it to help it. The whole point of this part today is just so many layers, so I think the more I can have crisscrossing each other, I can probably even see another instance where I can be a little bit cheeky here. These are snappable walking nodes, which makes me tremendously happy. Let's do this, and then we'll force into elevation. As we cross over this pathway. And then we'll force back to ground. Here. Grab those nodes. Go to the same height as the building here. I guess you're going to want to be a park path, aren't you? So there's possible retaining more justification needed. The more layers I can instill into the build, I think the more the vibe is going to come off, right? We can certainly detail this here. But you can see how it'll stitch together, hopefully, as the various tiers of this massive central hill park come together. Another thing I'd like to add before we start heading toward a detailing time-lapse here is a metro station. I don't know which one's best for this particular terrain, to be honest. I imagine more of the Sunset Harbour ones might settle in quite nicely here. This one in particular. Yeah, this metro stop's essentially kind of like a... That's like a big block away, isn't it? So... I think for right now we'll put the next metro station here. And then we'll just slope that up. And slightly accentuates the layers for us. We've learned today we're not against this, are we? And we'll also get another monorail in here as well, although we probably would like another monorail stop within the park space itself, I think. But having just said that, those assets... Well, this station and monorail combo is quite nice, isn't it? As a possible site for another stop, wouldn't mind it in here, which is also where we need to factor in the entrance to the Botanical Garden as well. A lot of multi-sloping today, although that's actually not what I want to happen. In that particular instance, we'll just adjust a couple of nodes here. Are people hitting their head on the monorail here? No, there's a decent bit of clearance there, I think. And then with the monorail station, I think our most appropriate spot to bring it in is probably going to be about here. Which I can actually just about maintain a road connection at that angle, which I'm happy with. Again, I can imagine the gradient police across the various forms of transport are all pretty upset with today's episode, but I promise you, just wait till a time lapse. We'll get it there. Just going to run some new slopes in between these mods. And I feel like you here, you're probably going to deform too much, aren't you, I think. Set slope to there. My main concern is people colliding their heads, which they almost certainly will at that point. But our node here, we'll just pull it up. Not sure if there is a gradient piece for Monorail, actually. Does Monorail have a maximum gradient? I'm sure it does. I think if anything, there actually the better choice is to bring the path down rather than the Monorail up. Well, everyone, in tremendously exciting news. It's obviously not complete yet because it's not the full figure of 8 on the eastern side. But from this Monorail station here, can now come all the way up there. Cool, so he's actually backing up, isn't he? Because it's quicker for him than completing the loop. But once we have stations over here, this left side Monorail will get utilised. But for right now, obviously the tile boundary kind of stops us completing that. We'll sort jank out like this as well. I realise there's some kinks in the system here. Gremlins in the system, so to speak. But I am desperate to see this in action now. This has been a long awaited. There's a really severe gradient here, isn't there? We'll tackle that. This has been something I've been waiting to see for quite a while. Especially at night time as well, actually. Let's enjoy this at the night, shall we? I think we'll do some after dark lights under the monorail system here. Isn't that just so cool? Such a fun way to use monorail, I think. I know we've really gone ham on the monorail in Illium. But it'll be worth it. Here he comes, back up the other way. Really low to the ground before ascending back up into the station, which of course we'll fully detail around the base of it. And then he's going to head right down here. Brilliant. So we'll refine those stops on the line in future episodes once existing infrastructure is in. Let's also not neglect our metro line, who will extend to a new stop at a much greater stopping distance than the monorail has, which I guess makes sense in terms of hierarchy. All these little people living here. I'm surprised. Are you not dying of noise pollution, actually? I thought you would be. No. Interesting. It is loud here, isn't it? Interesting. Why are you fine, but these guys weren't? You're, like, next to a metro. I thought you'd be super unhappy. Beyond that, we can see the metro flow through the park. We need to sort out another collision here, which we can do. Again, more transit layers just crisscrossing across this crazy terrain. Slight tree collisions. Level crossing is performing as expected. And still allows everyone to move around here, I think. Brilliant. Amazing. So many layerage happened today. The metro will essentially form the boundary for this build, or I guess the arterial system here. Don't really cross over here because we'll fill this with something else. But otherwise, I think we're in a pretty good place for a detailing time-lapse. Lots more of the same ideas through here. Lots of retaining wall and detailing and terrain to sort out across the major space. More botanical attraction, which is already receiving a nice little bit of viewership. But yeah, lots more of this vibe. And it helps settle in our festival area as well, a little bit of bob. And lots of concrete extension here to really blend all the assets together to make it look like one cohesive flowing park space, and likely a fair bit of car parking as well, given just how much people will probably attract up here, especially with the festival area present. Oh, look at that. Hello, people. Need to move that fence as well, but that's so cool. Oh, I love that layer. That's so nice, isn't it? We just want to actually change this to a elevated segment. There we go. Fantastic. So we'll look forward to plenty more of that. Otherwise, go ahead and grab yourself some snacks, as we'll be right back with some detailing time-lapse. Alright guys, let's have a little review around essentially what is part 2 of a hilltop park, I think. And the tile boundary over here very much stops us from completing, so kind of like we did with this Ziggurat Garden Park, where the tile boundary is blocking us as a 25 tile project. Very much a part 2 will follow, as the opposite tile boundary across the other side of the city here, of course, opens up. But I think we'll feature some more of the quirky unit buildings, maybe some of the Asian temples, as the park expands across the top of this chunk. There's not much of it left now. You can see just here, and then it comes back down toward the highway. So essentially using the park boundary with the monorail, almost. Once that opens up and we can design it, of course. Some car parking up here, of course, for such a busy area, with some benches and lights, which will one day... This build actually almost confirms that the airport is going to go here, because I don't think I can refuse that view. I think from anywhere across the hilltop park, being able to see the airport will be just fantastic from here. So I almost certainly expect the airport there now after today's build. Some people picking up the tram stops in the park, and then there's lots of fencing over here. Same on the switchback as well. Alternating farm fencing coming in between the layers here, which is very nice. Up the hill, we'll see some landscaping and a blending of walkable path networks across this plaza space here. Done some sort of, I guess, crowd control detailing using some of the barriers. And almost as if the, so, you know, like almost the stewards can change the configuration based on how many people they're expecting. I know they've closed this one off here because they don't need this access, so they can funnel in here, pay for a ticket, and then come into the entrance of the amphitheatre, which has also been developed up around the back. Some prop and delivery detailing for shows and whatnot, with a couple of chain link exits and entrances either side of here, which then feeds actually under the trees and back into the main plaza space here. The event space, there's actually a gig about to kick off at the minute, which is very nice. It's probably one of the best placements of the festival area we've done. Easily the best view, I think. Great place to come for a gig, this, wouldn't it? Looking right over the city. With lots of landscaping around it. Same here again, benches, eateries, plazas. With the classic Love Heart Fountain configuration as well. Of course, great place for selfies. With the skyline of Illium behind you, even seen all the way over to Sapphire Marina there. That's the tram. Isn't getting the most amount of use up here. There's a few people coming back and to from it. But the monorails, again, are stealing most of the transit population. If anyone gets off here. A few more. But they're also stopping in the asset as well, so not everyone makes it back here. The layers work wonderfully as we swoop down into the Botanical Garden section, which is all fenced off around the thick Illium forest that dominates all the unbuildable terrain. Back down to the road network, where we'll see the birdhouse and just plenty of park assets. Our botanical detailing, which we discussed in the episode. Landscaping and new trees at the front of the botanical garden. Again, with fencing to hide more gnarly terrain layers that are developed. Cafes with expanded table detailing. And more botanical vibes. Again, the official asset pool dwindles here. Also got one of the Japanese planters in as well, perhaps some kind of rare sapling. Kind of Russian rocks, I suppose, that happen to spawn in very nicely. And general official asset, more nature-themed detailing. With that little expanded zoo asset plaza in here as well. The park's hit level 3, but it will likely hit level 5 once part 2 exists behind it. We'll keep the same park area flowing around these gates as you try and come into the centre of this kind of major green gem, if you'd like, that's developed around the road networks. Once this all has builds around it, of course, it'll look a little more obvious. Down here, there's expanded tables at the front of a cafe on our angled metro, which has a statue of Jerry Sr. And just some cute park detailing at the back of a little door on the station here. And there are some people arriving on the figure of 8 monorail, which is very nice to see. There's a slight kink in that segment there, isn't there? Need to straighten that out. Which we will when we come to develop these other areas, really. The monorail, just kind of prepping for a future transit hub here. We've also got underground metro not too nearby. Well, not too far away, rather. So it's likely this will come and join these systems over here for a major convergence point. As access into the park once part 2 of it develops. And then from this, our transit networks swoop back down the hill. Over lots of walking pathways, so you can totally imagine grabbing a sandwich from Morduk's Coffee over here. And then taking a stroll down the hill. Skyline beckoning behind you, monorail passing by on that very low elevation as well. And then taking a bench near one of the bird baths and eat your sandwich and watch a bird have a bath. If there's no better afternoon than that, then I'm not sure what is. Also little fountains in some node-controlled sections. And just a nice time to be had over here. Some bins by those areas as well. Which is wonderful. I also threw in another one of the Japanese towers. I felt like I wanted another taller building here immediately off the park. And then blended this in with paths that lead us to kind of an undergrown, grassy area of these transit networks here, which has a wonderful view up to those towers from here, doesn't it? I do love seeing these little sight lines develop on the kind of the ground level. Which also have a little fountain plaza here tucked in the trees, leading us back to the university build, which has a great angle on this corner here, doesn't it, from that unique building. Really like that. And then perhaps my most favourite bit of today's build, and possibly of Illium so far. I've placed the blue after dark lights, you can see them here. On every monorail pillar, at least in the first half of the park. Which really gives it that look I wanted, like the monorail is marking the boundary of the park. And I think the lights help so much with that. Really fawned over this. You get a good before and after here of how much a difference those lights make to a monorail network. Could be a tram network as well, doesn't have to be monorail. But I think there's certainly something so modern about the monorail after dark look. And the trains are pretty well spaced as well. I haven't seen a single collision here on the cross junction. So that's really nice. I really love the lit up monorail. But ultimately giving us some fantastic views of part 1 of the major hilltop central park. But otherwise I'll shut up and leave it there. An enormous shout out to the YouTube members and patrons that bankroll these videos, with a roll call to our golden egg patrons: Casino, Spartan Angel, Michael W, Phoenix MD, Blythe, Jamin, and Great Sing. If indeed you'd like to get involved in that, links down to Patreon and Instant Gaming, best ways to help support the videos here. Been looking forward to this build for quite a long time, and it was really nice to get stuck into some big open green spaces after so much dense inner city concrete action the last few episodes. Mentioned Illium really does need some more industry. Power and sewage are right on the threshold, plus the industrial demand bar itself is getting quite high. So we might break from downtown next episode, or we could go do the airport. Both sound very appetizing. See what happens. Please do enjoy the cinematics, and I'll shut up and leave it there. Thank you all again so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.